Hey guys, welcome to episode 31. Wow, 31. And it's Halloween. That's interesting. The 31st day of October is Halloween. Nicole will join us as she's getting her costume ready. While we do that waiting, let's go ahead and hop into our intro. I still love that intro.
I really like that music.
Yeah, man. That's nice. I mean, it goes with the wrestling thing.
Yeah.
So, like I said, today, Halloween. This is episode 31. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Hey, happy
Halloween, guys.
Looking Willow. Or should we call you Fred? I mean, oh, spooky.
I love Halloween.
Oh yeah,
I don't know about the rest of you, but it's as a person who loves costumes, it's always been my time of year to be whatever I wanted, and until I discovered conventions.
I'm only partially costumed at this point.
That's beautiful. I love it. You
I'm having a
great
problem
job on your makeup.
This is my attempt at sugar skull face paint.
It looks good from where I'm sitting.
So
Yeah.
I'm getting a little bit better at everything.
It reminds me of that Pixar film. Coco.
Well, I can't get the eyelashes on because I'm afraid.
You're afraid?
I'm afraid of fake eyelashes.
Oh, okay. They just annoy me. They make me crazy.
I'm not good at not poking myself in the eye when I do makeup anyway. So,
I gotta say something about that as a man. When I was younger and I was dating, and they were very popular then with girls, fake eyelashes, I got poked in the eye. I'm like, oh no! What's up?
Oh, it's in the eye by the fake eyelash?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
I did eyeliner last year for my Gomez Adams costume, and I was such a baby about it. Like, the girl helping me was getting so frustrated, and I was like, "Look, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry." And I'm like shaking my head and moving around. I hated it. I hated every minute of it.
Yeah. So before we go around the round table and introduce everybody, there's something that kind of came to light yesterday. Our friend TJ, that's been missing since the 29th, isn't missing no more. He
Anymore.
Yeah, anymore. He's not missing anymore. He was diagnosed with COVID and was quarantined in the hospital for a month. And
okay.
He had no access to the internet or his phone because he didn't have a chance to pay the bill before he was admitted to the hospital. So that's why nobody could find him. But he is alive. I talked to him today. He's 90% better. He does kind of feel crappy about, how everybody was worried and, he couldn't reach out. But TJ, we're glad that you're okay.
Absolutely, man. I hope you get better.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, he had everybody he is in Long Beach, California, and he had everybody from Chicago to Ireland. His whole friends were worried about him and looking for him. So it was great to see so many people share the flyer and every day.
Yeah.
So just happy that TJ is back, and he does have an album dropping in 2 days. He told me, so that's really cool.
That is awesome.
So we'll start with David. Welcome to the show. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Dave Espinosa. I'm with CRA Entertainment, and we are a film production company in the based, and we have a couple of new films out. Hopefully, you'll see one tonight. The newest release is called The Crumbs. It's straight for Halloween. It's about a pretty crazy family who, well, I don't want to give any of it away, but it's doing rather well. My partner, Craig Ahrens, who is directly below me, maybe he tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah,
Okay, Craig,
I'm this guy's, that guy's partner. That guy's partner. Yeah, and The Crumbs came out. It'll be a week Thursday. It's been doing really well. David and I co-wrote it. He directed it, and yeah, it's on Amazon Prime free. Soon, probably within a couple of months, it'll be available on Tubi TV and other platforms. But currently, it came out on Amazon Prime.
Nice. And then we have Omar joining us again. The last time you were on was during the summer, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're about right on that. Yeah, I'm Omar Rios. I'm the host of the Creep Show podcast. First episode just dropped, so please go on YouTube, like and subscribe, and tell me how bad the first one is so that I can reflect on it for days.
We all have to start somewhere, though.
Oh, man. And joining us today is our friend Heather from Comics and More, New Jersey. How you doing, Heather?
I am good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Thank you for having me.
You want to go ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know what you do?
Sure. I own an online comic shop, Comics and More New Jersey. And I started a group, Comics and More Chaos, for people to kind of cross-promote and help each other get their names out there. Very few rules: sell, promote, share, love art, buy it, buy the comics, and pretty much anything in that world. So that's what I've been working on growing now.
Nice,
Awesome.
nice.
Yeah, she shares a lot of Kickstarters. I mean, that's something we'll talk about later with the filmmakers. But we're also joined by Brandy Stark, who is a paranormal researcher, investigator. Is that what you want to be called?
Yes, actually, I'm actually a PhD, believe it or not, and I'm a professor when I'm not ghost hunting or doing art. I do have a podcast called Paranormal Pets on PetLifeRadio.com, and I will just warn you that I also have it's called a Pug Grumble. I have a series of pet pugs who are with me today, so they're all around me trying to sleep. I'm hoping they're not being too noisy, but I founded the Spirits of St. Petersburg in 1997. And we've been doing paranormal investigation ever since. This Halloween's actually been really, really cool. We've gotten a lot of attention, so I've been really thrilled.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Oh man, and paranormal's right up your alley, Nicole. Right? You. Yeah.
I'm waiting to figure out how to be part of one, but I'm so far away from everybody.
You literally have my dream job. You're pretty much a Ghostbuster with a PhD and ghost hunting. So
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's been interesting. It really has. And I'm lucky enough that as long as I don't say that ghosts exist, we're cool. So I could say they're a cultural manifestation in the classroom, and then when I'm out doing my paranormal investigations, then I have to say yes or no. You know, you have a ghost or you don't. It's a weird dichotomy, but it's a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm gonna murder my I'll be right back.
Just mute it so that there's nobody listening in.
I don't feel so bad about the plug now, so it's okay.
I got a question for everybody here. What does Halloween mean to you? Like, were you always a fan of Halloween growing up? And we'll start with you, David.
God, I loved Halloween as a kid. I grew up in Denver as a kid, and we'd get a sheet or a pillowcase, cut holes in it, and we were ghosts. Only rich kids bought costumes, and we didn't live on that side of town. So we'd go out, and we'd be out there till 9 o'clock at night. And we'd come home with so much candy. Oh, God, I loved Halloween. And scaring myself. I don't know why we like to scare ourselves. but I do. And anything that's ever scared me, I've always confronted, including the boogeyman. Frankenstein, the original Frankenstein I saw when I was 6. And it didn't turn out well for me. I was in the theater and I had eaten too much candy and too much of everything else, and I really had to go use the facilities. But I was so scared. I was so glued to my seat. I couldn't move. I knew Frankenstein was in the bathroom and I wasn't going there. So, I'll let you fill in the blanks, but I love Halloween, and as an adult, I loved it. My brother and I used to turn his garage into a haunted house, and join into his house and set up all kinds of little trap stuff and boogeymen and stuff coming out of the bathroom shower curtain, and we had a heck of a good time doing it. I just loved doing that. So, theater is in my blood, and Halloween, like our costume lover up there. Yeah, be whatever you want. It was so cool, so yeah, I love Halloween, and there you go.
Well, geez, that kind of answered my one question that I had for later was a childhood memory. Well, you said Frankenstein scared the bejesus
Crap
out
out of me. We'll leave it at that.
Hey, you know what? I watched the original Mummy as a child, and that scared me. I don't know what it was. Like the walk of the Mummy. It was just everything.
No, Boris Karloff was a genius.
He's a
performing
great actor.
Yes,
and
he was. He was amazing. He played the Frankenstein monster, and he had a bad back at the time, extreme injuries, and they put these huge shoes on him and all this costuming. It weighed so much it was killing him. Boom. The same thing with Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
People thought he turned into a dependent pain user. Unfortunately, narcotics at the time, he couldn't get the painkiller. He turned to heroin, but it wasn't to get high. It was to relieve his pain.
And then a decade before them, Lon Chaney, the Man of a Thousand Faces, did horrible things to his body to, further his art. And a lot of the makeup secrets that he had died with him. Like, people still don't really know how he did certain things.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Well, I know he used burnt yak hair when he was doing the werewolf, because I actually teach Frankenstein in my humanities class as a transformative cinema piece. But we do talk about some of the old films, and I can't even imagine how in the world you would actually wear burnt yak hair that close to your body. I mean, it can't do anything but reek. I mean, what these guys went through was incredible for their passion and their love of film.
That was Jack Pierce who designed that and came up with the burnt yak hair for the Wolfman. And on many occasions, Lon Chaney Jr. tried to fight him while in the makeup chair.
Well, it was amazing how they did the metamorphosis to become the wolf, and there was no computers. Remember, they were just doing this with a montage of the images into each other. So it was awesome. I loved those movies, how they did it. And on Frankenstein, that's amazing. You teach that. It's an example I use with a lot of people about the monster's humanity. That he was not a monster. He was turned into one. And I always pick the scene of the little girl when she meets him out by the river and she gives him the flower, and he senses the love. And that's all he wants is to be accepted, to be loved, of course the obvious is there. It's what we all want, right? So amazing film. I'm impressed with that. Thank you.
It really is. My favorite part is that students today, I mean, it's hard to get them to sit through, anything, but, I talk about how it's a transition into sound film. And my favorite part is in the very beginning where they're burying somebody and it sounds like concrete bricks hitting that coffin. But, it was just such a dramatic effect, it just really kind of drives it home. So there's so much out there, and it's so incredible. And I'm a little sad sometimes because I think when we have CGI and all of these things today, we kind of forget the psychological horror and the simplicity of that horror and the human experience in the horror. So I make them watch it every semester, and usually they walk away learning something.
Well, you're going to make me talk about our first film, The Evil Down the Street. I was trying not to do this, but what you just said was exactly what Craig and I tried to create. In the first film we got, the script originally had a lot of the CGI business you were talking about. And we took the script, took it apart, and it was based on true story, something that really happened to some family. And I shaved all that stuff out. I took it all out. I struck it all. I said, let's keep it exactly what it is. There's like 7 drops of blood in the whole film. And it's based on these people move into this house, and the mom starts drinking insatiably, and she starts turning into this crazy woman. And the daughter catches her doing weird things. The husband does. And that's, to me, scarier. If I was to watch my mom do some of the things that was in this film, I'd be like, what? So I thought the realism, that's the true horror. It's not all this CGI blood and guts and let's gut everybody. Yeah, so I appreciate that. Now I'm going to have to ask you, please watch our film, The Evil Down the Street, and give us an honest assessment. We can take it. We've already been told it was crap. we don't know why they said that. But on the other hand, we've also been told that one of the best films people have seen because we did exactly that. That we didn't bring all the Hollywood make-believe to it.
David, where's it available at?
You can see it on Amazon Prime, The Evil Down the Street, as well as The Crumbs. The Crumbs, we did pretty much the same thing, but it's a different storyline. It's about a wacky family. So.
If I may, Omar, on Evil Down the Street, in addition to what David said, you can also go to Tubi TV and IMDb TV, 2 free platforms, Tubi and IMDb, very user friendly. Because not everybody has Amazon Prime. We get that, but the film Dave's going to talk about, The Crumbs, probably like within a couple of months, you'll find that also on Tubi TV and IMDb TV. Sorry, David, but
no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Tubi TV is very, very.
That's excellent.
We saw both of
that you get into the cult classic of horror.
Yeah.
With your movies.
Well, we're our support base, thankfully, horror and paranormal. We have such an incredible relationship with them. It's UK, Canada, the States, and Australia. Those are our spots. And David and I maintain a very high profile with them because we enjoy engaging with them. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's people like you folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. If without people like you, people like us have nothing to do.
We're just a couple of old guys running around taking videos, and that's, what's going to do with that?
Very suspicious.
Yeah. We'll be arrested within 5 minutes.
So Craig, I'm going to ask you, what about you growing up? What does Halloween, have meant to you? Do you have like a favorite childhood memory from Halloween?
Well, yeah. Where I was born and raised in Huntington Beach, California. And I kind of ran with 5 other guys, and I was one of the younger guys in the group. So we never went trick-or-treating for candy. That wasn't like cool. But we always did pranks, and the older guys would always kind of architect whatever the prank would be. And in Huntington Beach, which is kind of interesting or maybe odd, always October is a big month for fog. And same like on Halloween, it was always quite foggy. And one prank that would just stand out, and I'll be quiet. We would have this stuffing, this like a mannequin, but we would have all the clothes all tied together and have this stuffed costume with a rope they'd paint black that you really couldn't see. And there were several big trees on Huntington Beach downtown with limbs that go over the street. And so take a couple of guys, we'd get the dummy position, right? So a car would come and this would swing out. The car would hit it. And then, we just let go of the ropes. So the car would just go a little bit further down, hit the brakes. And the sad part was they didn't always come back. Well, we would quickly pull the dummy out of the street, and those would come back. They're looking and looking and looking. So yeah, for us, it's always pranks. Oh
my God.
Yeah, I don't think I ever really once came back with, oh, look, I have a Snickers bar. It was always, and like my mom, I was an only child. My parents were really cool about it. They'd say, just don't do anything too drastic. And this one time, I remember this one time, the prank didn't work out so well too. I'll say the prank, but it didn't work out. Okay, well, what it was, we were taking bow and arrows, and we'd take off the rubber dart, and we would shoot the arrows at cars. Well, one guy had his window down, and it went through and hit him. And so he slammed those brakes, and so he's chasing us. And so my mom just happened to be going out the front door, and we saw us running down the street, and this man chasing us. And then, then later on, of course, went to the bonus round of questioning. But yeah, for us, it was always Halloween pranks. So no candy, but a lot of fun.
I'm going to have to, I got to reclassify how you look at what you're doing there. That doesn't sound like pranks. I think you're bunch of juvenile delinquents.
Well, we would take the concept of prank, David, and just really expand it. Just expand it out.
It sounds like crime.
Yeah, there's a fine line. There's a very fine line. And that explains why David and I are partners and our preference is making horror films. That explains that. Don't take too many assumptions of our conservative appearance.
I'm gonna hop down to Heather. What about you? What does Halloween mean to you, and do you have any memories?
I do. I grew up in Colts Neck in Monmouth County, New Jersey. It's Central Jersey, and I am the youngest. So my mom would always throw parties on mischief night to keep all of us kids and any kids she knew out of trouble. And we would decorate the basement with a haunted house. We had a really big basement and hang sheets from the ceiling and fabric. And I was the youngest. There's a 9-year age gap. So think about the age difference between a 5-year-old and then the teenagers in this jumping out at all of us little ones. We would have so much fun. And on Halloween, we went trick-or-treating. I loved dressing up and going out, and we would leave as soon as it was light, as soon as we got off the bus from school, and come back 9 o'clock at night with loads of candy. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I love haunted houses.
I'm a big fat chicken.
Yeah, you're a chicken.
Me too. I don't do the haunted houses.
I can't do the whole people jumping out at me thing.
No.
And I think that's the whole my uncle and everybody, they knew. If they knew that I was going to come around the corner, they'd jump out at me. And I could know they were there. And I'd still jump and scream and nearly pee myself every single time. So
exactly. Or want to punch them.
I ended up doing that a couple times. I said, they got to the point where they were either she's going to pee herself or she's going to punch us. So it became even more fun.
That's why you work at these haunted houses, so that you are the one that's scaring people, not the one being scared. It's so much fun that way.
Yeah, well, I'm a sissy.
I have a funny story to tell.
That is not funny.
We were living in Las Vegas, and we just had seen the sequel / prequel to the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wants to do this to me.
So we were walking, and it was night. So we walked out to the parking garage, and there wasn't a lot of cars parked because the more cars that are parked in a parking garage, the less of an echo. So we're walking, and a motorcycle starts up, and she starts running because it sounds like a chainsaw, and she's running looking for the car.
He laughed at me so hard he made me cry. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm a freaking chicken, but it sounded like a chainsaw, so leave me alone. And to this day, he's still like, well, we need to go to the go to a haunted house. I said, no, we don't.
I've been wanting to go to Universal Halloween Horror Nights, which
since we moved here.
Yeah.
That sounds
But
like
she's
so
like,
much fun.
You have to go. I'm like, no, I don't have to go.
It's excellent. It's excellent. They have all the creative licenses, so their haunted houses are always like, the most expensive. And I think out of all
they
of
have
them,
like the best makeup effects artists working for them, and
right, exactly. I mean, they're not necessarily scary, but it's a good time. It's a really good time.
Yeah. So, Brandy, what about you? And then also, what got you into the paranormal?
That's two questions, but okay. When I was a kid, I'm an only child. So yes, I would go out trick-or-treating, and like pretty much everybody else, you're out there for like 2 or 3 hours walking. Back in the old days when I was young, it was also right around the same time they did the time change. So that was also like off kilter. And so then you're eating candy and you're walking for hours. And this is Florida. So in Florida, it's like 88 degrees out. Well, maybe 85 today. We might have a cool front here. So, you're out there and it's hot still. So I would come home and I'd eat candy, and the next day I'd be completely cranky. And, my mother would just leave me alone as, let me recover. But I loved Halloween. I loved dressing up, and I just really enjoyed the fun. But the irony is that as a kid, I was terrified. I actually don't do a lot of horror because my feeling is that I can watch the news and I can be terrified, and I usually am. But when it comes to ghosts and the supernatural, I try to kind of step back a little bit and kind of take a calm approach to it. But, horror films and things that are really emotive and designed to pull out those emotions, I have a hard time with them. I just don't want to feel, fear. I already got enough. So, and in fact, it is funny because as a ghost investigator, a paranormal investigator, the dead are not as scary as the living. I mean, it really is dealing with other people and, just trying to maneuver through daily life sometimes. But, I started in the paranormal. I started reading about it when I was 11. And this was, again, back in the old days. So I would get a book and would have the Loch Ness Monster, UFOs, Bigfoot, ESP, and then a couple ghost stories. And they're all together. And this tells you how old it is because today everything has its own genre. So, you don't get one book with a mix like that anymore. And I would read this stuff on the true ghost stories, and I'd be terrified, and I wouldn't sleep, and I'd have to, not read anything for a while. But when I got into college, and I loved the college experience because it was a more intellectual, less emotive. And I started reading, I'm a classicist. My first undergraduate degrees were in history and classics. And I would read the Iliad and the Odyssey and the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I started to notice that they all had ghost stories in them. And my very first paper was The Role of Ghosts by Homer, how he transformed the Greek concept of the underworld. So very exciting stuff. And as I proceeded with my degrees and my knowledge, I just kind of kept on that theme. And it gave me a lot of background information. I finally started finding books locally on local urban legends and lore. I'm also an artist when I'm not doing all this, and I was doing an art show in Gulfport, and they had asked, they knew I liked the ghost stuff, so they asked me to do a little talk, and I did, on local ghosts. And afterwards, I had a retired couple who came up to me, and they were house inspectors, and I was still a poor graduate student at that point. So they had the equipment, but I had the knowledge. I had been kind of mentored by some of the paranormalists of the 80s and 90s, and we actually just kind of started looking up the urban legends, and we started investigating. I thought it would be 5 years worth of things to do. And, 23 years later, I'm doing a virtual investigation, or at least an interview with a woman on Monday who's having some paranormal activity and some issues. So, it's amazing. I try to really treat everything with respect. I think that's really important. The idea is that a ghost is kind of a disembodied personality. So not reacting with fear is really important, because it's kind of, whenever you talk with somebody and they react emotionally, you react emotionally. So trying to kind of get people to step back a little bit and calm down, and then we try to see what we can do. So Yeah, I honestly didn't see it coming when I was a kid. I never saw myself as a paranormalist, artist, professor, but here we are, and that's what it is. And it's really delightful. You meet some really cool people out there too. And I've got a great team right now, a group of all ladies, but they are very dedicated. If I need help, man, they're there to help somebody and to help me and to help the investigation. It's really great. So it's taken a while. You kind of go up and down in the cycle with the paranormal. But I think the other thing that I try to do is to present it without. I try not to filter it too much in the sense of, I will admit it's a pseudoscience. As an academic, I have to. It's an issue of transparency. So we're using equipment, sure, but we're taking it out of its normal context to try and prove something that might or might not exist. But from a scientific point of view, has not definitely been proven, is not in a laboratory setting. It varies from case to case. You have to know backgrounds and religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, understand that the researcher is the instrument of the research, that our bias and interpretation is part of this as well. So, here we are. And I love Halloween. Particularly once the paranormal investigation stuff started, because people are really excited about their ghosts then, and they want to know more. And just being able to present something that's a little bit different, and letting people know you don't always have to fear the dead. I'm not saying go and poke at it. Oops. Did I get dropped? No, I didn't. Okay, that was weird. There's a ghost in the machine. But love it. I love Halloween right now. It's now lasting about 6 or 7 weeks for me. So I've got like under eye makeup on today because I've like a coffee on the side, but we've done it. So
that's awesome. Now, before we get to you, Omar, we're going to run one of our sponsored ads from a good friend of ours.
Southwest of Chicago, there is a small, secluded cemetery known as Bachelor's Grove, and it is one of the most haunted places in the United States. Author Brian K. Morris brings you a collection of writings that will help you navigate this ghostly graveyard, if you dare. The Haunting Scripts of Bachelor's Grove is available now on Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
Into the whispering.
Yeah.
Very cool commercial.
Yeah, Brian K. Morris is a great guy. He has 2 shows a week. One, it's 2 shows a week, but he does one 3 times a week, if that makes sense. He has the Nevermind the Furthermore, which he does Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then on Tuesday nights, he does Clever Title Pending, where he brings creatives on and they talk about what they do. So I was just on there Tuesday, which was my 40th birthday. So that was fun.
It was a good show.
Nice.
I
Happy
was
birthday.
a little bit more, making fun of. But
yeah, you wanted some roasting. Brian says he wasn't ready for it.
Here, may switch that so we can see my makeup.
Yeah, we'll switch.
Okay.
So Omar, go ahead and tell us about your Halloween stuff, man.
So Halloween is my absolute favorite holiday of all time. It has been since I was 2 years old. I guess my biggest introduction to horror and something that I watch on Halloween Day to this day was the Monster Squad from 1987. I was a child, like very young, maybe 6 or 7 when I watched this movie for the first time. I'd never seen the classic Universal monster movies. Obviously, that's changed now. That's probably my favorite era of horror.
Yeah.
But they're so ingrained in pop culture that you knew who they were. You knew who Dracula was. You knew who the Frankenstein monster was. And the idea that these kids who were roughly just a couple years older than I was were going up against them Goonies style, that was everything to me. I was obsessed and hooked at that point. From that point on, I hunted down everything spooky and scary that I could possibly get my hands on. And to this day, Halloween itself is my favorite holiday. My girlfriend and I and my kids, we're creepy, we're kooky. You know, we're all a little kooky. It's just it's Halloween every day here. We don't just wait for October. There's constantly weird decorations up. October is when I just go and buy more stuff for the house, essentially, to go year round.
Pretty much.
You know, I love it. I can't get enough of it. And I hope that never changes. You know, I'm always going to be that kid at heart.
Nice. And congratulations on the podcast. I'm definitely going to check it out a little bit later.
I really appreciate that.
I see big things because I know how like horror is a religion to you. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, you can ask this guy anything and like he knows. He's got it all up there.
I didn't realize there was somebody that was bigger than you. Like, I didn't realize that.
I mean, I really appreciate it. You guys have been some of my biggest supporters, you know, for a while now. So I really appreciate you guys all the time and all the advice you've given me on starting a podcast in the first place. Can't credit you enough.
Well,
Thanks, man.
Expect a lot of sharing from me because anytime that one of my friends starts up something creative, I'm just like, hey, let me promote you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And I think that's the best part about this community plus COVID in general is like a lot of us decided that we didn't have anything better to do. We might as well put our voices out there. And so we just kind of started sharing stuff and creating stuff and we didn't really doing it for anybody else. It was just like, hey, we're going to talk about this and see what happens.
And we have the rising tide mentality. So like a rising tide helps everyone. And this is why I like to bring on folks like Craig and David and yourself and Brandy, because we hear your stories and then we feel the connection and we like to share what you guys do.
We learn really cool things too. We're like, oh, well, I didn't know that. So here, put this out there for other people who might be looking to do the same thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Craig and David, which one of you want to start this out? How did you guys get into the film industry?
Could you say it one more time, Brian? You broke up a little bit. I'm sorry.
How did you guys get into the film industry?
Oh, well, David has a much more entertaining. No, I'm not. No, I know what you think. He's gonna. I'm gonna hear about this later. Like he's thinking I'm throwing him under the bus. Okay, but he's been in the business for 40 years. I've been in the business 40 minutes. So you tell me. So all right. So I don't hear from David later getting thrown under the bus. I never planned to be a filmmaker. I love cinema. I love films. It was a unique twist of fate in my life. I was a mortgage banker for years and years and years. And 2007 hit. And so I took, let's say, early retirement. And in 2013, a good friend of mine who's an actor had an acting academy, which I didn't know. And he invited me to it. So I went I live in Orange County, Lake Forest. So I went to Santa Monica just to sit in and watch actors do their thing. And the next day he called me and said, what do you think? And I said, what do I think about what? He says, Craig, give this 90 days. Now, I was a single dad. And I don't come from an acting family. I come from a real estate finance family. So that whatever image you would be an accurate image. You know, we were just very structured, if you will, other than Halloween as a kid. I say that kiddingly. And so, and I was a single dad raising 3 kids. So I said, all right, I'll give it 90 days. Because I always told my kids, always be open to possibilities. And if you have a deaf ear to a possibility, nothing will come from it. So this really took me hugely out of my comfort zone on every level. So you're up there doing a scene. I didn't want to be like that guy and forget your lines while everybody's just looking at you and judging you. It was just a very interesting being that raw and that exposed to people. Well, early on, I realized I'll be turning 66 in January. And so my goal was to be a filmmaker. It didn't make sense. The struggling actor had no appeal to me. Now, thankfully, if you go to IMDb, I did book a number of things, but I worked really hard as an actor. But it was like a one-trick pony. But my goal is always be a filmmaker. And through a third party, a mutual friend of both David and me, I had the great experience of meeting David. We hit it off just like that. And here we are today. So, the moral of the story for me, and I'm not that unique, that anything in life, that be open to possibilities. And if you're later in life and thinking, oh, I'm too old, I'm too this, too anything. No, you're not too much of whatever it is. That if you have passion, open to possibilities, I'm living proof anything can happen. So there you go. I'll pass it up to this gentleman. This guy sitting on my head.
Yeah, watch out.
I know. I'm keeping an eye out.
Well, myself, all my life, I've always loved the movies, and I've always wanted to be an actor growing up as a kid. I grew up in some pretty hard knock environments, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And in the pursuit of it, I ended up doing all kinds of things. I became a cop. I worked for the phone company. I have a real estate license. I went to law school, ran a law practice. I've done a lot of different things. I've had other businesses, an internet cafe on Maui.
Are you one of those people that if you pull out your wallet and like all these things just drop out?
Pretty much. My business card collection is quite astounding. I've ran restaurants, but in the background, I was always pursuing this. And then at the ripe old age of 24, after already being a cop and doing some other things, I decided I was going to go back to school. And thanks to my beautiful wife who encouraged me, she wasn't my wife then, my girlfriend, she encouraged me, said, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm going to do what I always wanted. I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to go to UCLA and study theater, and I'm going to get a degree in directing acting. She goes, okay. And 4 years later, I had 2 degrees, and one of them was in theater and acting, directing from UCLA. And I started doing a lot of plays and writing my own stuff and getting paid to do it. And I was having a grandiose time, but not really making any money. And meanwhile, we're having babies. So my son was born, and my daughter's coming around the corner about 5 years later. And I decided I need to do something. These kids eat a lot. So I ended up in law school. While I was in law school, I got cast in some pretty good films. I got my SAG card, joined SAG-AFTRA in '87. And it just kept going, but it just wasn't what I wanted. And the law practice took me away. And so I wasn't going on auditions. I started playing music with a jazz group. I'm a percussionist. So I started playing music, and we were doing original jazz pieces to poetry, some cheap poetry I write. And next thing I know, we're producing CDs and we're doing that stuff and getting on TV. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. And long story short, years go by. I end up living over on Maui and running a real estate practice. And I had an internet cafe called Beaners. It was totally cool. And I had a good time. And then 2008 comes, the economy crashes. And a lot of people I knew over in the States call me up, why don't you come back, open a practice for us in Sacramento? I go, Sacramento? I come to Sacramento. I hated doing law. It's not my creative side. I was good at it, but it was an anxiety-ridden profession. And 5 years after that, I just quit. Just see ya, struck up an agent again, started doing that, getting some work right away in some films, commercial stuff. And the guy kept telling me about this guy named Craig Ahrens, this guy I met on a set. named Todd Chase. You got to meet this guy, Craig Ahrens. He's like you. He's into films. He's serious. I said, yeah. This went on for almost a year and a half. Finally, I said, all right, set up a meeting. I'll talk to him. As soon as I talked to him, I said, oh my God, this is the guy I've been looking to partner with all my life. Boom. We became friends. He had a script. We took the script. We re-edited it. We put a business plan together, created a corporation, set it into motion, presented it to people who had more faith in us than they did in the script. And we produced it. It's called The Evil Down the Street. And you can see it now on Amazon Prime. And then we wrote another one called The Crumbs. And we shot that and produced it, and it's out. And then we wrote another one, Demon Fighter, and it's in post-production now. And we have another one that we're shooting in February called Love and Quarantine. It's a comedy, and it'll be shot in the Sacramento area. So
we hope it's like David said earlier. We hope it's a comedy. If nobody's
not a documentary.
We have just made our first documentary, and we're good with that. We're okay with it. Then right back to horror we go. I'm sorry. Go ahead, David.
No, that's fine. But my passion's always been acting. I studied mime. I mean, I was into every part of it that you can imagine. I took every dance class there was, whether I could dance or not, mattered not. I wanted to understand what it was like as a director. What do those people go through? You know, so when I'm working with them, I know what they're doing. So I suffered ballet classes, jazz classes, tap classes. Oh my God. You know, and I was already in my 20s. You know, I wasn't a kid doing this. I was working with a lot of kids. I was going to UCLA with a lot of spoiled kids in the theater department. They only brought in like, you know, a whole handful of people every year. It was a much sought after position. So I felt very blessed going there. And I can't even explain this business for me. It's such a creative aspect for who I am as a person. I made up stories in my head all my life. I can't stop that. I paint, I write, I play music. I'm into the arts in every form that I can be. And that's why I like this guy. He's an incredible editor. He's into the minutia. He'll suffer over 1/10 of a second on a film. And so when we're done editing it, it's edited. He'll tell me about something and I'll go, what? And I'll look at, and then I got it, and I go, oh, well, you mean where she turned her head and blinked? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but that's what makes it.
Like I'll take out the blink. Things that you'll never notice, but our philosophy is if you do enough little things, enough good little things, they add up to bigger results. But like David is right, I will agonize if we cut on somebody blinking. That's like a cardinal sin. You always want eyes open. So he's right. I stick to detail stuff. It's the mortgage banker in me. It's an anal retentive thing. I can't get it out of my DNA.
I could totally see like how well you guys could work together just from this buddy. You guys got like a buddy cop feel to you.
Maybe that'll be a future film.
If you've seen us in person, you'd understand. She's like 6'5" and I'm like 5'8". Okay, so you know it's like a Mutt and Jeff kind of situation. You know what I mean?
I said.
What made you guys decide to go with Amazon instead of like other streaming services like Netflix or?
Okay.
That was strictly a business decision based upon really investigating all the different distributors and the offers that we got. On our first film, we got several offers off the top, and there's no rhyme or reason in this business when it comes to distributors and their contracts. They're always different as the individual distributors are.
Right.
And fortunately, I'm versed in contracts, so I would review everything and see all the differences. And I said, wow, this is crazy. This is just crazy. And Indie Rights was the distributor that offered the fairest deal. It also presented itself to us that we had to put in our work, which fortunately I have Craig, who picks up a lot of the marketing end of what we do. We both put the plans together, but the majority of instituting the plan is Craig's process. I do most of the pre-production planning, put together the scripts, I direct them, and then once it goes into post, it kind of picks up on Craig's end. The editing, the marketing, so we have a nice balance. So as to why we chose a particular distributor, it was totally based on what's the fairest deal we're going to get. And most of these distributors want to take the first $10,000 to $40,000 received off the top, and then split with you on a 70-30 split. They take 30% off the top, and then you get the 70, or a 60-40 split. Well,
if I may, one thing I'll interject here that is very important. Any of your filmmakers tuning in, David and I were very blessed. We had 9 offers on Devo down the street. We vetted all 9 of them. 7 of the 9 did not check out. And I met all these people at AFM back in 2018. They didn't check out. Meaning, when I say they didn't check out, people weren't making money. It was just bad. It came down to two distributors, Vertical Entertainment and Indie Rights. Indie Rights was the best fit. Talked to a number, all the filmmakers on their platform were very pleased. So for a filmmaker to think that you have a distributor like, oh, there you go. No, that you are one in hundreds of titles with that distributor. We work really hard. I mean, David and I both engaging with people via social media, but as a filmmaker, do your homework on the distributor before you ever sign the contract. We are very blessed with David's background in law that we can go to contract that fast. So we're real sticklers when it comes to details.
Yeah, I was going to say that David's background in law must come in handy with the filmmaking.
Well, twofold, if I may. David has he's a graduate at UCLA School of Drama. And when we first met, I met him as an attorney. And so, when we just clicked, it was over time that he mentioned about UCLA School of Drama. I thought, oh my gosh, how incredible is this that you have the arts and you have legal? I mean, I still at times am thinking like, holy cow. So that's for a small production company. I mean, that's a huge plus for us. I mean, David has written screenplays, like you mentioned, novels, all sorts of things, and directed plays. So for us, it's a huge plus. A huge plus.
Nice. Yeah. Omar, I was going to shoot over to you. Since you're the new podcast on the block, is there something that you would like to ask these guys?
They answered my original question of where to find their movies at. So first thing on the docket for me this weekend is going to be to brush up and watch your guys' work. And then if you are okay with it, I'd love to give you guys a shout out on the next episode.
Smart man. Omar, you're a smart man. You look to see first, because you may watch our film and go, what the hell was that? Okay. And then that way, you don't know. I always tell people, I said, look, please watch the film. If you like it, give us a review. If you don't like it, just don't tell nobody.
Keep it a secret.
We're talking about a guy here who unabashedly, non-ironically loves Return of Swamp Thing. So I feel like we're going to be okay.
Okay. So here's my guilty pleasure at the moment. So I love being scared, but I'm a big baby about it. So the stuff that scares me is stuff that scared me when I was a kid. So when I was, I think I was 11. This says a lot about me, but when I was 11, I saw People Under the Stairs.
I love that film.
I love this movie so much. So, but it scared me because I was like, this is like what real people could do. And I've later in life met people that were very similar to that. And especially my profession, like with foster kids and stuff like that. So it was really very scary. So the night I saw it.
No, go ahead, please. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So
go ahead.
The night I saw it was the same night that my sister's hamster got out. And it put up little residents underneath our bed next to the wall. And it started to chew the bottom of we had a water bed then. It was the 90s. Don't judge me. But so like underneath there, like there was a little, like a little hole, basically, like a little tunnel. And it was scraping at the wallpaper to tear off the wallpaper to make a little bed underneath the wall. And we're laying there in the dark, and I'm like, do you hear that? And she's like, I hear it. Are there people in our walls?
Oh no.
Like we lived in a double wide trailer, so I know that's not true now. But like we were wholeheartedly believing that there was people in our walls, like running back and forth. It's got us scared to death. We're turning on the lights. We're like looking all over the place. Like, where is everything coming from? I was like, I'm so ridiculous. Then I found out that they're going to remake it. And Jordan Peele is thinking about being involved. And I'm like, I can't wait for this. Because I love everything that man has done.
He might actually make it a little bit better.
It was very campy, but I really liked at that point in the year, like at that point in our lives, like it was very campy to be very like into that inner city ghetto kind of mentality. So Ving Rhames was like the thug, and it was hilarious, just the way that the movie was portrayed. I know probably it's gonna have to change a little bit now. But,
I thought Wes Craven did an all right job.
I loved the movie. So, and when I say that I loved the movie, really, you're weird, but I like weird stuff, I guess. Whatever. I'm a middle school teacher.
The movie is, if you look at like the whole of horror history, it's supremely important in the fact that not only was a child the male lead, but it was an African-American child from the inner city. And you just didn't see that very often. I mean, up until that point, I think maybe Night of the Living Dead in 1968 was the first time we saw a black male as a lead protagonist. It was a sign of things kind of shifting, and it's very, very important when you look at things like, speaking of Jordan Peele, Get Out and Us. It was a sign that no longer are the minorities just cannon fodder. They are being pushed to being the heroes. There's a film called Girl with All the Gifts, I think it's called. That does something similar, but it came out like I think maybe 2 years ago or 1 year ago. So there's been large gaps in between, and that makes People Under the Stairs so important to the genre and what it does for all people that have been watching it, for horror fans in general.
And even Candyman, like Candyman was fantastic.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like that's still one of my favorite movies from the 90s.
And I think another problem though with the way we've kind of decided that horror needs to be is that we've made it sound like it needs to be a commentary on everything. It is not always a commentary on social justice and all this nonsense. Like sometimes it's just, let's scare the hell out of somebody. And I think we need to start believing that the stuff that really scares us is the stuff that we do to ourselves. So who really is the monster? It's kind of like a humanity take on, Frankenstein, really, because we are the monster. We created this world we live in.
I think The Walking Dead is a very good example.
Because the monster lives inside of us all, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Well, there seems to be, classifications of horror films.
Yeah, I do teach on that.
From reality, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that happened.
Yeah.
That to me is an outrageously atrocious film. to take something as disgusting as what really happened to those folks and glorify it into a genre film for fun. I saw that film when it first came out. It bothered the hell out of me because of that. And so when I see Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I'm like, really? Really? And then we have films, as she was talking earlier, Brandy was talking about classifications regarding more reality. This is what you were discussing as well. And I agree with you. Watching something real that happened versus something like total blood and guts, and we're just gutting people. There's a film out there right now called The Butcher. It's winning all these awards. I've seen the film. I am sorry. It has a weak storyline. I like the guy too who did it, but he's winning all these awards in these festivals. It's just straight up hamburger, blood and guts, nothing else. Makes no sense to it, but it's doing that. And then there's psychological thrillers, things that deal with what we, the bump that goes in the night, what we in your mind start to think is scary, what's bothering us individually. And then there's the crazy people. So we have all these different things about what is horror and what isn't. We had somebody comment on our film, The Evil Down the Street, and said it was weak in that regard. And we had other people comment and say it was scary as hell because of that. So it just depends. For me, what's scary is when I think of something that people really do. There was a film called Last House on the Left. I don't know if anybody knows that film.
Yeah.
Whoa. I mean, that's based on something horrible that happens. So is that horror or terror? And I think we could discuss this as nauseum until we're blue. And for me, I much prefer like The Haunting, something based, the Amityville Horror. Those are well-documented real events that took place. That scares the bejesus out of me. But just to watch a film where some guy's going around and chasing everybody and hacking them, I'm not so big on that.
Brian is kind of like into all the stuff. So I've watched plenty of things that I'm not better for coming out of. So like torture, gore, and all of that. Like I will never see Hostel again. I will never. You won't see me watch High Tension again. Like I want something more out of it. Like I think the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, what scared me was what you didn't see.
Yeah.
It was the sound of the chainsaw. It was the blood on the sheet. It was watching her be picked up and put on the hook. But you never saw any of the blood that went along with it necessarily. You heard the noise, and it was what happened up here that really
except in the van near the beginning when that one freakazoid takes the knife and gouges me all, and then he starts putting it on. I mean, I was like, okay, I was done right there. I was like, what?
For a film called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hooper does a really great job of not showing a lot of gore and leaving it up to your imagination. And I think that's what affects people the most. To this day, that's my top 3 scariest movies of all time because of how it affected me when I first saw it. I had nightmares for weeks. I still feel uncomfortable driving through like certain parts of Lutz because I'm just like, yep, the car breaks down. I'm Hispanic. I'm done.
And then you contrast that with The Exorcist, where there was gore, there was all kinds of disgusting things going on, but it was of a supernatural, metaphysical context, so we could accept it.
Yeah.
The head turning around, the green vomit, the self mutilation with the cross, the crucifix. I mean, that was gory as hell, but we could accept it because of how it came about. It's the devil.
Because people expected the devil to be that kind of
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you've seen the documentary on The Exorcist because of all the stuff that went behind the scenes there. I mean, the Catholic Church tried to shut the film down, and even like the filmmaking itself, there was a lot of issues.
If you ask anybody that is truly thinking about, like exorcism and paranormal, anything, people do believe that exorcism really does happen. But the Catholic Church does not want you to know that. They don't.
I gotta tell you, when we shot the evil down the street, all the basement scenes were done in a basement 100 miles away from the main set house in an old abandoned reform school up in the high desert in Banning. And inside this old house at the bottom of this 2-room basement, when we first shot film just for scouting locations, there's no lights down in this thing. And Craig was down there and shot this. And Craig, maybe you want to tell them what you saw.
Yeah, when we shot, as a double basement actually, so we instantly fell in love with it. And I was out there with our assistant set location manager, and I was upstairs, and I was talking to a couple of people upstairs, and he says, "Hey, Craig, you want to come down here?" And he was feeling just really uncomfortable. So I went down, and what we always do is I'll take a video and I'll show it to David of whatever set location would be, and vice versa. David will do the same thing for me. And so I did this, and I first sent it to our set location manager, and I sent it to David also, actually at the same time. And long story short, we had orbs in the videotape. Now everybody can say what they want about light flares and everything, but this for us, this is always a standard protocol. And they weren't visible, obviously, when we were down there. They came out on the video. And there weren't all these extraneous light sources you could really justify it. So yeah, and we have that. We have the tape of these indiscriminate orbs going here, there, and everywhere. So yeah.
And not only that, there was another part of the reform school that had a huge basement, and we were shooting some scenes over there. I was over there by myself with the makeup artist. She was putting some appliques on my back of a big crucifix for some scenes I was going to do. And we start hearing, like, if you've ever heard these big doors that think of an institution with the push bar and somebody going, that's what we started hearing. So we think it's one of the crew guys coming and messing with us. So we're like, hey, all right, knock it off. We're funny. And it wouldn't stop. So I walked over down this long hallway, and there's rooms left and right. I'm looking in everything. The makeup artist, she's getting a little concerned about it. She goes, this is weirding me out, Dave. I said, I'll go check it out. So I go, there's nothing here, nothing here. There's nothing there. I come back. She starts doing the makeup, and we start hearing a pounding, like bam, 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 bam. All this is recorded too. Our sound guy recorded all these sounds. It was totally weird. And there was nobody there. It was just us. So, things happen. And I do believe what you were commenting on the Exorcist documentary of the film, that the things that happen and we start talking like Ouija boards and all this business. Yeah, you start looking, you will find. And whether it's self-induced, projecting our own fears for something to occur. So we think we see, we think we hear, we think we feel the cold chills and all that stuff. All right. But regardless, there are events that are not explained by science, physical science, metaphysical science, yes, but not physical science. And I myself, I'm just a believer. If you can believe in God, which I do thoroughly, wholeheartedly,
why not?
How can you not believe in all of the other potential apparitions metaphysically that may be or not be? And to me, it's the same thing. Yin and yang, dark and light, sun and night.
Yeah.
Well,
although, just so you know, with the Exorcist.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, you had said that sometimes when you go looking, they find,
I was going to say, with the Exorcist.
This is.
Looks like Brandy's.
This is a bad connection.
Are we there?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Heather.
You had said that when you start looking for something, you might find it, but sometimes they find you. without looking. I moved into a house, my soon-to-be ex-husband and I, we had bought this house and never thought anything of it. When first night we moved in, the doorbell rang at 3 a.m. and the front door opened. And I went downstairs and I'm like, I knew I locked up. The dogs were like, you know, looking around, but nothing too weird. Went back to sleep. The next day, the door was open again. I was like, this is not going to go well. And we lived there for about 10 years. And in that time, the front door would open and shut. Doors inside the house would open and shut. Lights would turn on and off. Things would disappear. And but the best was with the babysitter. He was dog sitting, and I get a call, and we're out of town. And he's like, I swear I locked the door. I don't know what's going on. And I said, well, you know, the animal's okay. Everything's stolen. He's like, everything's fine. But the door was wide open. I said, it's okay. Just lock the door. But I saw the boy. There was a boy in the house, and my father-in-law saw the woman. And my ex and my son would say, hey, you know, were you calling me? I'm like, no. Like, well, I kept hearing my name calling. It was a woman. So we definitely had the two. And for the most part, they didn't do much besides, you know, little mischief. But every once in a while, they made their presence known.
Okay.
It was interesting. I don't miss living there, though.
I guess not. Yeah, I lived in a house for 17 days.
Well, but that's the thing.
Go ahead. We can hear you, Brandy.
I was going to say that's the thing with ghosts. Okay, just making sure there that it's very surprising. Oftentimes, if you just say out loud that just something simple as, okay, I know you're here, but I really wish you'd stop opening the doors or whatever it is that you want. 90% of the time they listen, they just want to be acknowledged. And in fact, I just dealt with a case in which the guy refused to acknowledge the ghost. And it turned out to be his father-in-law who had died in the middle of a nasty divorce. And it's this very complex backstory. And he kept not acknowledging the ghost because he didn't know if it was demonic or not. I'm like, dude, you cannot, this goes any clearer on who it is. I mean, it knocked over a portrait of itself. It went to its old bedroom. It only acts up. Family is there. I'm like, it's the guy. But in not acknowledging, sometimes it just actually escalates, the phenomena, because they're so desperate to try to get you to say something to them. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a weird little thing, but it is something that does happen. So, and actually, I might blip off for a few minutes if that's okay. I was in a local little film, Wordier Than Thou, which is a literary group in this area, and they had somebody who wrote like a little 5-minute film. I got to be cult member number 2, so it's actually debuting at 3:30 on their Facebook page. So I'm not sure if they're going to do it again or if it's just a one-time thing, but I might pop off for a little bit, and then I don't think it's going to be that long, but always come back in. I did add some comments on the side on exorcism. They're just there if you need them. But the Catholic Church actually does offer an exorcism class. And I actually met one of the higher up folks. I used to teach a study abroad in Rome on religion, which was really fun. And we got to meet one of the men who actually, one of the priests who determines whether or not something is miraculous or not, or possession or not. And he was totally fascinating. I mean, what they try to do is really rule out the natural, because there are so many people out there that are trying to trick you. And what I thought was really fun is that he told a story about a weeping statue that wept olive oil. And this woman was trying to get it proclaimed a miracle. And they kept coming in. They would actually take sale and they would send it off for testing. Well, it turns out they do this every summer. They declare it. The last time they went in, the composition of the olive oil changed. Eventually, that indeed was a fraud, The woman was take them out. They didn't make the original olive oil that she had been buying, so she had to buy a different. But they're just they've got to be careful, because if you can trick the church, that's a reputation thing. So it's kind of wild. But I just wanted to make sure to add that part in. I mean, it's interesting. And of course, the other thing that I've dealt with as a paranormalist is that there is mental illness. I mean, there's just no way to go around that. So how do you determine if a place is haunted or if it's actually somebody who is unfortunately not well? We had only one case that ever came up like that, but I didn't set up the investigation. One of my teammates did, and we got out there, and the woman that we were investigating, we couldn't find any of the phenomenon that she was describing. But, as you walk through the house, by her bedside table, there are all of these antipsychotic medications. And it was kind of one of those things where you kind of have to go, okay,
That explains
so
a lot.
it's kind of wild
like
these days.
It's kind of like that TV show on CBS called Evil.
That's a good one.
Yes. Yeah. So, but anyway, let me see if I can catch my quickie debut, and then I will pop right back over. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
If you can share the link with us for that,
and I don't know if I can try and share it. Okay.
But yeah,
let me see what I can do. Hold on. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, you can message me the link, and I'll post it.
It's okay. That sounds good. All right, so I'm going to pause for just a second, or at least mute, and then let y'all do your thing for a sec here.
All right.
Thank you, Brandy.
So, I have another Halloween question for you guys. What is your favorite Halloween candy?
Not candy corn.
Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah.
I'm actually a big Almond Joy fan, so me and John Wayne Gacy there really love us some Almond Joys.
Me,
That's
pretty
a
much
little
everything
bit
that's in
scary.
this box.
Oh, those look good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This is all pretty much. I guess you can only find a lot of these in Canada. The Coffee Crisp is one of my favorite chocolate bars. Smarties, not so much. I prefer M&Ms over Smarties, but yeah.
What about you, Heather?
Chocolate.
Is anything
I'm allergic
chocolate?
to chocolate. Well, I'm allergic to chocolate, and my allergies have gotten better as I've gotten older. So all the chocolate I had to give away as a kid, I'm making up for it now.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I as long as I don't go too crazy, but absolutely chocolate, peanut butter cups, Reese's Pieces, M&Ms, pretty much anything chocolate, peanut buttery is my go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reese's peanut butter cup is my favorite.
Hey.
Along with something that you can't find much anymore, and that's Fifth Avenue.
Oh, I forgot. It's been a long time since I've seen those.
Yes, I put Fifth Avenue way higher over Butterfinger.
I like them
Are they
both.
similar? I've never had one.
You never had Hershey's Fifth Avenue?
Actually,
No.
when you really think about it on Halloween, the best Halloween candy is the free one.
The free one.
Your kid's bag.
That's always good. That free candy. Ew.
Yeah, but not the crap that they put in, like I don't like Dum Dums, and I don't like.
Oh, they put some weird stuff in there.
You guys ever get like the little boxes of raisins?
Yeah.
I made sure to slander that woman's house every year.
I've gotten
I
oranges,
like getting raisins.
apples,
I didn't
pears.
mind that.
With your apples,
I
have
like
you
raisins.
ever found a razor blade?
Nope, we'd cut them open.
Trick or treat.
My
That's
parents
an
were
urban
real big
legend.
on that.
It is an urban legend.
Mhm. They did it.
Yeah, right in the apples.
It's happened. I
Yeah,
remember
it's
as a
actually
kid.
not true. It hasn't happened. I just taught on that today.
Sickos.
I kind of laugh about that though, because we tend to make urban legends more and more believable the more we talk about them. So,
well, I mean, they had to make a movie about it.
Well, they did, and it's every urban legend possible is in that movie. Pour it out so it doesn't spill.
So I have a filmmaking question for
And then,
both
and
Craig
then you
and
never
David.
know because sometimes people copy.
Who is your favorite director?
David?
Ooh.
No, David is my favorite director. No. That's my answer.
He's killing me. He's killing me.
Just being smart.
You killed me,
you know.
Smalls.
Go ahead, David. Who's your favorite director?
Well, it's not me. I can say that much. God, I've liked so many over my lifetime, but the one who always seems to, for creativity and for genius, is Alfred Hitchcock. I love Alfred Hitchcock. His ability to do exactly what we've been discussing, to show the murder without showing the gore, to creep you out without showing the creepy thing. It's what I focus on as well in my writing and in my directing. We don't need to see all of that. We need to understand it. And by understanding it, that's enough to weird us out. You know, the amount of time he put into the one scene in Psycho, and the obvious scene inside the shower when he's chopping her up with it. The amount of time for that scene was incredible, what they did to make that scene work. You know, and then he did some stuff that wasn't all that nice. You know, when he shot the birds and he convinced Tippi Hedren, I believe was the actress, he convinced her that they were going to use fake birds for the scene inside the room. And he let real birds go in there on her.
Wow.
It totally freaked that poor lady out and caused her injuries. So, you know, that's a little weird. You know, and then look at you know, all of the stuff he's done. You know, Rear Window. You know, I don't know if anybody's ever saw his piece Rope.
Oh yeah, of course.
Do you realize that was shot? There's only 2 cuts in the film. And you'd be damned to find the second one. The first one you can find. It's an incredible piece of work the way he did it. He rehearsed it like a play and shot it in continuous form, all the way through. Incredible movie.
Yeah,
Incredible movie. We tried to
cinematic genius.
that. Yeah, in the Crumbs, our opening scene, one take. You're going to see a bunch of scenes that take place. One take. We shot multiple cameras, positioned them in various places, had them circling back to come back. We rehearsed it, and it started in the back seat of a car, went from there to the outside of the car, to the front of the house, into the house, up the stairs, down the stairs, outside, and we did it in one take. And that's not me. That's the talented actors, the talented crew people that we had, people like Matthew Tomotzik, who was working the lights, David Johnson on camera, Shane Moss on camera. We had Mark Valentine on sound. We had a multitude of talented people crewing this thing so that when I said action, it truly was. It was, and when you see the scene, I think you'll appreciate why I'm so excited right now, because wow, it was a lot of, and that's what gets this stuff done. So back to the original question, yeah, probably Alfred Hitchcock, even though I've loved many directors and I still do to this day. I mean, come on, Jurassic Park, Star Wars. I mean, God, I love those films. They're so well done. The directors, Spielberg, and, you know, Scorsese. I love all those guys. I watch all their movies. I study them. I study their movies. But Alfred Hitchcock, he was something else.
Then I take it, you say you're a fan of like Spielberg and Eastwood and all of them. Is there, you take a little bit from each, and do you actually write notes down after when you watch their work, or
Oh no, I'll watch the movie numerous times, and when I'm watching it, I'll watch it for different things. I'll put myself behind the camera, or if I'm studying an actor, I'll put myself where the actor is. So I look at it for a number of different reasons: lighting, pacing, what the mood is emotionally, where the camera's placed relative to that, and why. So as a director, my training was on the stage, not in film. And so I had to teach myself how to direct film. It's different. It's way different. And for me, as a director, I'm into the performance. Work a lot with the actors, helping them get to where they need to be emotionally. My training as an actor was that. I had some awesome training with people like Jerry Gardino. He was John Voight's acting coach. I had the pleasure of working with him. Michael Gordon. I don't know if you know all these films. There was a series of Rock Hudson films and Doris Day called Pillow Talk, a bunch of series of films in the 60s, romantic comedies. Well, I had the opportunity to study with the director of those films. And these people taught me some things that you can't learn unless you're doing it. You got to do it. And what they told me is study films. You're looking through the camera lens. Ask yourself why. Why is it up here as opposed to down here? Low angle versus high angle.
Mhm.
Why is he panning with it at this point? Why is it a close up, not a medium shot? Why? And when you start to do that, you'll start to understand exactly where they're coming from and what the impact is. So, if I want to see something, I'm looking to see if this person's telling the truth, and I do a close up of their hand, and their hand is just maybe moving a little bit on the desk like this when he's talking. That will tell more than any dialogue that they have. So it's the little things, as somebody said earlier, putting them together that amounts to the big things. I know, Craig, you said that as well. So directing is a whole different thing. Each film is different. Each approach is different. I've had actors work with me and say, "Wow, you're different on this film than the last film." And my answer is always, "Was I a bigger asshole then or now?"
Those are my favorite type of directors. Is what you call the actor direct, or the
actor's director.
The actor's director, where they understand from the actor's point of view, and then they're willing to work with the actor more, because there's a lot of directors out there that don't like working with actors, and that's like George Lucas. Because the story was, when he did American Graffiti, a young Ron Howard came to him and said, "Hey, I'm interested in doing this thing." And George is like, "What? Acting? You're doing good." He's like, "No, I want to do directing." He's like, "Oh, like animation?" He's like, "No, live action." George Lucas is known that he's not an actor's director, and that I think that kind of showed in the prequels.
Well, you know what it is? It's that they didn't study that. They study cinematography. They studied lens. They studied placement. They study angle, and they study lighting in reference to that to create mood, emotion, temperament, if you will. That's what they study. They don't study acting. So they don't know how to communicate emotionally to an actor and help an actor achieve that point. That's the difference. What I try to do is help the actor reach that emotional value, okay? Because of the cinematographer, my DP, prior to us getting on set, I do a shot list of every single scene. Now, I don't do it as a Bible. Stick to this shot list. I want it at this. No, it's a guide. It's a roadmap of how I see the scene unfolding and why. And then when we get there, my DP has already gone through all of this shot list. He knows exactly what I'm thinking about. So I don't need to waste time sitting there looking through the lens and saying, well, square it up a little bit. It's not center. I don't. That's his job.
Looks like David's freezing.
We're freezing. Heather, I'm curious, what horror comics do you enjoy reading?
I'm actually new to comics. I have a bunch that I need to read. my background wasn't from comics. That's not how I ended up in this world. So I am kind of a baby when it comes to comics. I have so much to learn and read, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot more. I kind of got pulled into this world with my ex. I was in a bad car accident, and we decided to start a comic business. He loved the comics, I love the art, and I have so much to read. I've backed a few Kickstarters. I have collections here to go through, and I'm looking forward to it. So I will know that answer soon, but I don't have one yet.
There's some really excellent independent stuff to check out there. Like, it really is a whole new world, and it's awesome that you're supporting Kickstarters and stuff like that, because those independent creators really need that kind of support and push. Like, that's excellent.
Yeah, and you know, that's funny that you bring that up, because starting in January, Heather is going to have a segment with Reels and Heels where she will highlight I think we said 5 Kickstarters that are going on that we are going to be pushing.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. What I'm doing now, with everybody being shut down and a lot of the cons not being around, the artists are used to going to the cons. They're not used to social media. They're not used to networking online virtually. And this is a big step for them. They create. And a lot of the people I've talked to are like, I don't know, I create, I put it up, I go to a con. And I'm like, but there are very few cons right now. There's a couple. There's Cowtown right now in Texas. And in New York, there's Suffolk Comic and Art Expo in December 6th. But it's not the usual. This is not the usual schedule. But the few that are coming out are really needed. The, social distancing and being careful. But in the meantime, all these artists, I'm like, well, what are you doing with all the sketches you're doing? I'm like, well, I'm putting in a pile so that I can sell it later. At the con, it's like, but we need to work on this. So I've been sharing a lot of the indies. I've been anything I like, anything that I see. And I realized I was blowing up my wall and the business page. So I started the group so they could start promoting themselves. With very few rules. I mean, it's the basic: no religion, no drama, no politics, and no nudity because of Facebook. But share your work in, include your links. I have announcements where they can put the different projects they're working on. They have a thread for their social media to list. So not only can they put their name out there, but they can start supporting everybody else. And the group's only been open less than a month, and it's over 500 so far. And it's growing pretty quickly. But I'm a huge supporter of it. You might not have the money to buy, but it doesn't take anything to share it. Get everybody's name out, cross-promote.
Yeah.
And you never know who's on your friends list. You never know who's a contact. You don't know, somebody might be looking for what your, so-and-so's work, or see it and say, oh, I have to have that. It's been huge. So I'm looking forward to seeing how everybody kind of works more together. I do love that everyone's supportive. I love that everyone's like, hey, I've got a Kickstarter going on, but have you also checked out these other 3 people that have Kickstarters going on, or this project's coming, or a new cover? I love that. I love how everybody's pushing each other.
Yeah, that's something that you find in the comic book community, and even in the independent filmmaking community. I see a lot of filmmakers sharing, like, not only their own work but other people's work, because they actually love doing what they're doing. And I guess you would say the independent music scene too. I see a lot of independent musical artists sharing other people's work. It's because when you're indie, I feel it doesn't matter if you're an author, a comic book writer, an artist, a singer, you love what you're doing. It's a passion. And, once you become too big and you become part of the machine, you kind of forget that.
Well, I think that when you're little, you're smaller, you really fought to get that attention. So if you're able to help somebody else get a little bit with you, it makes a big difference. It might not make a big difference for you, but it makes a big difference for the other person who's just starting out.
Right. And I'm looking here at the comments when we were talking about candies, M&M's with or without the nuts.
I like both.
I like the peanuts.
With almond.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah,
See,
I'm a with
I
guy.
have to say peanut butter M&Ms is what I like.
Those are good too.
Yeah.
We got the caramel ones. Those are life changers.
Those are good too.
Yeah.
Okay, I know this might make people cringe a little bit because of the word that's in it, but which movie do you think needs a reboot?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd like to
Well,
see a better Mummy movie.
A better
quite
Mummy?
honestly.
I like to see Blumhouse do that. They did so well with The Invisible Man.
And they got the Wolfman coming up next.
Yeah, with Ryan
Yeah.
Gosling.
Yeah, I'm both excited and truly nervous. That is my favorite horror movie of all time, is the 1941 Wolfman.
I didn't think
And,
the last one in 2010 was bad, though.
No, I really love the Rick Baker special effects. I'm not a CG guy. I'm really not. So what scares me is the idea that it's going to be like a completely CG thing. That would break my heart. Like, the worst thing you could do next to that is like put Mark Wahlberg in the movie. Like that's so I'm truly terrified about that. But at the same time, very excited. Like the Invisible Man was great. It was really well done and updated to fit current issues, and it was fantastic. As far as like a movie I think should get a reboot, gosh, I really don't know.
Well, the one that I've always had high on my list isn't getting a reboot. It's actually getting a sequel, and that's The Last Starfighter.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
creator got the rights back. And you know what? If you look at gaming today, The Last Starfighter is like perfect. They can do it easily with the way that gaming's so huge now.
Dude, especially with the VR and stuff also, and drones, like you could really do so much with that kind of script to update it. I think it'd be a great one to do. This one's not so much a film, but a TV property that I think gets no love and gets outshined by the Addams Family is The Munsters. I would love to see a new anything on the Munsters. That was my favorite as a kid. I own the entire series now, and I still put them on just because I enjoy it so much. And I would love to see animated, stop motion, even live action. Like I think any of those would be really cool creative outlets for it.
Yeah, we watched the animated Addams Family, and I kind of enjoyed that one. I thought Oscar Isaac as Gomez was great.
I enjoyed that one, but I agree with the whole Munsters thing. But I think, like, I want it to be the traditional. I don't want it to be like hokey, but I want it to be that traditional family-friendly reboot that the Munsters were. I don't want them to make it something that has to have a bunch of innuendo and all that nonsense. Like, I don't want that. Because I want what was real and what made the Munsters so good. I want that to be part of it. I don't want it to be.
Can we get Brad Garrett to play in
Yes, Herman.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to run another ad here for one of the family. So here we go.
This is the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Also catch us on the HWWS Web TV YouTube channel. Subscribe today and become part of the legend.
Yes. he is like under 400 away from 40,000 likes. So please, if you're a Doctor Who fan, if you know anybody who's a Doctor Who fan, head over to the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS and hit that like and subscribe button there. He's got some great guests he brings on, and it's a fun show.
Nice.
I'm sorry, but momming does not end even when there's a podcast in progress.
So
my cat was driving me nuts a few moments ago.
So Omar, do you want to kind of talk about your podcast and explain like what your vision of how you're going to move forward with it?
Sure. So
He's like,
I really love her, right? Like that's kind of my thing. It's been my thing for a very long time. I used to run trivias. I would guest star on other people's podcasts about film. And I did a lot of research on podcasts in general, and I noticed a real lack of podcasts that didn't just focus on film. There were TV specific ones, there was film specific ones, but literature and comics get neglected a lot. There's virtually nothing on music. And I was like, well, why hasn't anyone done a podcast that encompasses all of it? That way, you never run out of material. You can have a plethora of guests on to talk about different subjects and educate the masses on it and hopefully suggest something new. And isn't that what we want? We're content junkies, right? So we just want to be recommended new things to go and check out. And that's basically the whole idea behind it, is that occasionally I'll run an episode by myself, but the more guests I can get on to discuss stuff and have great conversations with, the better. Brian, you and Nicole are more than welcome for that Buffy one that I'm planning in the future. Like, I can't wait for that.
Nicole already told me yes when I had brought
Brian
it up.
was like, so you want to do Buffy and Angel? And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, I had an overwhelming response to that, to the point where I literally had to tell some people they can't be on anymore. There's just so many people that wanted to chime in on that one, because it's such a 90s staple. It's something that we all kind of grew up with and really cherished and loved, because there was nothing quite like that.
Yeah.
At the time, it was kind of our Munsters. Honestly, like the
until 2005 when Supernatural came out.
But it was, but it followed a bunch of teenagers that dealt with real stuff that we were all going through. Like, it dealt with being a teenager at that time.
It was kind of like a live action Scooby-Doo in a way.
Kind of.
I mean, they even call themselves the Scoobies, so that's what I'm talking about. It's just having just genuine, organic conversations about this genre that we love, and how it kind of you can find something related to horror in any medium, no matter what, and there's something to love for everyone. It's like craft beer or food. So you can find something for everyone in it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a paranormal question, because I feel like we didn't talk about it enough. So when you were talking about,
I think I'm back. So
when you were talking about looking at it from the spectrum of, or from the lens of it being, it's a pseudoscience, which essentially it is, but and you're an academic, what has ever been the most surprising, reveal or revelation that you've had, like where you were sold on the fact that something truly was happening?
There have actually been a couple of those. There's just things you can't explain. So what I find really interesting is when something happens not only in front of you and your group, but in front of strangers as well, if that makes sense. So we were doing a pop-up ghost tour of a local antique shop, which actually the building goes back to 1915. And in Florida, that's pretty good. So we were in there, and there's one ghost that hangs out in one of the corners of the building. And he actually changes the temperature for us. He'll drop the temperature. And, I didn't think he'd do it, but I had a group of people on this tour, and I said, well, this is the experiment that we do, dear sir, my dear ghost, if you're here, will you drop the temperature? And he did. And, it was kind of neat because you had this whole room full of people I have my infrared thermometer, they're watching it, the air conditioning is off, there's nothing moving. But they're part of this process, and they're actually watching my infrared thermometer reading dropping degree by degree, and we're talking probably 7 degrees within 10 minutes. It's things like that. Being with actually I have done a couple of things called control investigations, in which people don't know if a house is haunted or not. And I will take a group down there, and ultimately they don't know. They don't know, anything about the history, because I'm the contact, and I sit with the homeowner so that I'm not tipping anybody off to anything. I mean, it's purely them at first. And I love these investigations because they went through the house, they investigated the house, and I knew it was a control house, but you get a good poker face. So when they come back to report that nothing's going on, you go, okay, but we still have to do our procedure, and, we finished the investigation. And I was very, I'm secretly very happy they're not picking up on anything. But at the end, I had a retired police officer who was a sensitive of all things, who kind of had a really strong gut feeling that she always kind of trusted and listened to. And she turns and she looks at me and she said, there's nothing going on here, but next door, there's all sorts of activity. And the neighbor, it turns out, the homeowner turned really pale, and he looked at us and he said, our neighbor has stage 4 cancer and is in hospice care. I didn't know that. None of the team knew it. There was no way to tip anyone off. Something like that is not something that's really going to be published. This is kind of before Facebook times. And, you just kind of sit there and think, wow, how in the world would they have picked something up like that? There are just things sometimes. Unfortunately, one of the best things that ever happened for me on a personal level was my father. He passed away in 2012. Ghosts have a very funny sense of humor, because if you have equipment out, I swear they're going to do it off screen, or while you're setting up, or when you're not ready. And ghosts just do that. They always kind of catch you when you're not ready. And, I wasn't on a ghost hunt. I was home. I had just gotten home. And the backstory is that when he passed away, I'm his only child, and I inherited, his property, including a Saturn. And this Saturn, oh my gosh, it was a gray coupe. And as you can see, I'm a humanities, religious studies, literature professor, and I get to do the blue hair, and I get to be an artist. And there's no way I'd ever drive a gray sedan. That's just embarrassing. But it had air conditioning, and my Miata does not, and Florida's hot. And GM had the recall. It could have been worse. You're right, but this was still bad enough. And I was not comfortable driving the car because of this recall. And so I had called GM. I had called all the GMs in this area. Nobody had the part, and they gave you the road. And I was just getting really ticked. I was already stressed. And, one day they sent me a letter in the mail saying, oh, golly gee, you have a GM. And if you don't have this part, don't worry. These are the things you can do. And I'm on the phone with my mother. And because, who else are you going to rant to but your mother, who actually lives next door to me? I bought my house next to her. So we're on the phone. And at that time she was still working, so she wasn't even home at her house. But I'm going, I can't believe they sent me this letter. And now, I'm grousing to her. And I set the letter down on the counter. I turned around to get something out of the pantry, and I heard something fall behind me. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And I turned around, and on top of the letter, in the middle of it, is the gray Monopoly car. A Monopoly card. I'm like, what the heck is this? We have a Monopoly game. I have it. It was at that time in my garage. It was under boxes. I had to find it. It was sealed shut with humidity. I'm like, my mother, I scared her to death because I stopped talking, and she's like, if that happens, it's bad. And she's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And I'm like, something just fell in the house. And she's like, is there anybody else in here with you? I know this is a shock, but there is no Mr. Stark. So it's just me right now. And I've got pugs who are being almost good tonight. But nobody else has thumbs. I'm alone. I'm the only one here. The house is locked. And I'm like, nope, there's nobody else in here. It's a 1-story building. I could, it's kind of the shotgun bungalow. I can see everything. And I remember, I hung up with her, and I'm like, I've got to find this game. And I'm recording it as I find it. And I'm opening the thing up, and the gray Monopoly car from there is completely gone. And I have no way to account for that. No way at all. It wasn't in the house. It wasn't, anything I had played. There's no shelves. There is nothing here except for this 40-year-old Monopoly game that's in my garage that my parents probably did play. And the timing was just so impeccable. And there's no other witness but me. I'm like, oh, great. But it was so exciting. It's like that very personal event that happens that you just can't really explain to people until it happens to them. And my father was an atheist to an agnostic. He was a Vietnam veteran. He was a civil engineer. He was very intelligent. And he's very conservative, and I tend towards the liberal side. But so the one thing he really found fascinating, we agreed on The Shadow, the old Pulp Fictions. We like Star Trek, and he was fascinated with the ghost hunting. And so this was just a few months after he died, and I just thought that was such a clear message from him. And I think he was saying, "Quit complaining about the free car," But what do you do with that? Other than, you carry it with you as a personal experience. It's not academic. It's not even anything that, even as a pseudoscientific ghost investigator, I even could document other than after the fact. But it was impactful, and it was meaningful, and it, Dad gave me an awesome story that I still, I told from 2012 into today, trying to let folks know, kind of how this works. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of where it goes from here.
Yeah, I think
it kind of makes me laugh because my dad passed when I was 6, and so I'd spent the better part of my life trying to figure out if he was proud of me, all those things. So I came home from Vegas. My mom, my sister, and I went to a psychic. And I'm like, well, I kind of believe, but I didn't want to give him any signals or anything.
Yeah.
So he says, I'm going to tape this so you can go and listen to the tape later on. The tape player is sitting in the middle of the table. Mm-hmm. And he says, I'm going to start the tape now. I just wanted to just say hi and, document the date and the time. So the date and the time is on the tape. I say hi, I can hear my voice. And then you hear the volumes being turned down. And the next hour on the tape, my entire session is nothing but white noise.
Oh, weird.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
For an hour, this guy is talking to me about my dad and all of these things that, the first thing he asked me is, when was my near-death experience? And I went, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've had a couple, so I didn't actually lose consciousness or die, but I probably should have. And he's like, well, when was your near-death experience? He said something like that. I'm like, I don't know. And he says, you've lost somebody close to you. And he explained what my dad looked like, explained what my dad did.
Wow.
Talked about how impactful that must have been for me. It was wholeheartedly, that entire hour was meant just for my ears. It wasn't meant to be tape recorded. It was just meant for me. And so I tried to play the tape for my mom. I tried to talk to her about how important this was for me and to try to share with her the things that the guy said. And it kind of, it lost its luster for everybody else, but it made me smile because I was like, I know that in that case, he must have been talking to just me. It was just a message for me. It wasn't meant to be for anybody else. And there have been a lot of times like that, you know, like we think that even when we don't feel them, we think a lot of things aren't happening. And I think that there is definitely a veil that separates the two realms, but I really think that you're always being looked after. There's always that connection that surpasses death. I mean, I think maybe that's why The Crow is my favorite movie and why I'm fascinated by the paranormal. It's like, I want to believe that it can't just be over.
Yeah. And, you know, ironically, that's in part of the reason I got into it was studying religious studies is an academic field. I'm not a theologian, so, you know, studying the academic side of things. But I do remember as a young college student with grandiose ideas that I thought if I could prove a ghost, we could prove an afterlife. And in such a way, you know, perhaps give some validity towards the ideas of religion, because of course, you know, what we're dealing with today is the dissolution of all sorts of things, culture, religion, history, traditions. It's an interesting time to be alive. But yeah, I mean, it's that impactful thing that, and when it's personal like that, again, people may doubt you, but I mean, you kind of know it's true. And I think that's where it gets to be significant. I agree with you. I loved The Crow, and that wasn't even, you know, that wasn't horror. I mean, it was kind of a tragic love story mixed in with action adventure. And I thought it was and revenge. Yes, revenge. That's the action adventure, but yes, tied in with the ghost story with the revenge element. But very cool.
Like a modern day gothic romance, you know.
Yeah.
And very much in the same vein as like the Count of Monte Cristo as well, with the revenge aspect. Like it's there's so many layers to that film.
Well, and I think I think that that's probably the most tragic part of it, is that, you know, he is gone. So it's like you never got to see anything else that could have came from that. Such sad. I don't know.
The irony of the actor actually dying. You know, and there's a couple of times when that happens. Yeah. And in fact, it is fun, you know, it's his legacy. It's the one thing that he did and actually died while he was doing it. I mean, that's, you know, I think that makes it even more poignant than just the story itself. Because you're right, he was in his peak, and that's the kind of tragedy that we always, I think we always find most regretful is the potential that is lost. You know, but it does solidify you almost in a transcendent way, like Marilyn Monroe or JFK, MLK, Gandhi, you know, these folks that died tragically,
Natalie Wood.
But they transcend it. You know, they transcend that death. They don't become a nobody like the rest of us when we die, essentially. Their death actually solidifies their fame. And that's, you know, that's the other very ironic part of being alive. You know, and dealing with the dead and the supernatural. So it's pretty cool. And I do want to thank you all too for being so patient on the video. And the irony of ironies, if you really want a good pseudoscience right now, we have something called Mercury retrograde, which means communications, technology, and travel are all impacted if you're into astrology. I'm not sure how much credit I give to astrology, but I will tell you that today has been a technology day with between kind of my computer freezing at one point, and then they couldn't get the film to have sound. And so they're going to have to upload it to Facebook. And I still haven't seen my one line.
I think I have an answer. All right. Today is October 31st. Today there's a full moon, the first time since 1944.
Yep. Yes.
And I tend to mess with electronics. That's my mute ability, and somehow it manages to fuck everybody up around me.
My only experience with astrology was that a blind date one time walked out on me because she found out I was a Virgo.
What? What?
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
That's a little harsh.
Can someone please explain this?
he
to
asked me what I was.
because-
I was like, I think I'm a Virgo, and I kind of like shrugged, like, because I don't really know I don't give too much weight on that stuff.
Credit.
And then he got up and left, and then just never came back. And like the waiter's like, "Hey man, I think that chick left." I was like, "Yeah, man, I think so. I'll have another drink though."
Oh my word!
Wow.
See,
That sounds like a 90s film.
Yeah.
Are you in California or are you
Smith
Florida?
wrote that thing up to
Yeah,
me.
that sounds like a California thing.
I don't put a whole lot
Yeah.
of stock into the whole. I'm a Libra. My husband's a Capricorn, and by rights, like reading all the astrology stuff, we aren't supposed to be compatible at all. I mean, we have our arguments, but
Who doesn't?
but
Yeah.
I don't put any stock into all that mumbo jumbo astrology stuff because why? That's a lot of work to put into any, like, relationships take enough time out of your busy schedule to try to maintain.
Well,
Yeah, I put about as much stock into it as I do when someone asks me what my Harry Potter house is. I'm like,
There you go.
I'm in Hufflepuff.
It's always interesting because it's a way to gain control or at least understanding. So why is my computer freezing? It's Mercury retrograde. So we have something that we can deal with, and kind of,
As we
control
gave it
in
a
a way.
name.
Yeah.
That's if we gave it a name. It's hilarious though, because I had my my map done and I read the entire thing to Brian and I said, okay, so stop me when it's wrong. And so I'm reading it and reading and reading, and I'm like, you haven't stopped me yet. And he's like, because it hasn't been wrong. The whole thing has been 100% right. And I had to laugh. I was like, the whole thing was 100% right. But that was because it was my whole map. It was all my houses and all this other stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you have to take everything, I think, with a little bit of a grain of salt. Because I had my palm read when I was 20. And when I was 20, they're like, well, you are probably not going to have any of your own children, but you'll have so many other people's children. And I was like, I'm in school to be a teacher. Really? Like, okay, I'm going to have a lot of other people's children. But miraculously, if you look at my palm now, I have 2 birth children of my own on my palm. So I'm going to have 2 birth children along with one that is my bonus child from Brian's previous marriage that I basically raised and loved like he's mine. And then one that I actually just told Brian that if I could adopt him, I would. So, and then the countless other thousands of kids that have been in my classroom over the course of 15 years. So, it's just funny that sometimes things change to prove something wrong. Like, I don't know.
No, I
You're only
agree.
as good as the person doing it too, probably.
It's always interesting. I mean, if nothing else, it does keep us engaged and paying attention to what's going on, metaphysical, parapsychological, or real. It kind of gives us an idea. Ooh. Well, that's weird. Now my phone's talking to me. That's fine. That's great. So, but I do want to thank you all for inviting me today. This was really interesting. I kind of listened to a lot of the film talk. I thought that was pretty neat. It's part of the humanities, and we do talk about film, so I kind of absorb some of the ideas that you all were talking about. But unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to go too. Now I can't see my film. I'm like, oh man. And then we have mundane things that we have to do. I've got to pick my mother up and get her to Publix before the store closes. So, but I wanted to thank you. I mean, this was really, really very interesting. And
so where can people find you on social media before you go?
Yeah, before you go, where can we find you on social media?
Actually, look for the Spirits of St. Petersburg. Our website is probably the easiest way to find our Facebook page, but it's just www.spiritsofstpete.com. And we do have a Facebook page. We have a Facebook group. We've got a Twitter page. We've got an Instagram page. I think that's it. And, you know, if anybody has questions or needs help or would like to talk more, just let me know. I'm more than happy to see what we can do. And I might actually be more coherent next time with less caffeine and more sleep. Yay for Halloween, though. So it's been fun. So thank you again. I hope you guys have a wonderful, happy, safe, and haunting Halloween, and definitely go out and absorb some of those blue full moon rays tonight. I don't know if it's going to be good for us or bad for us, but it's kind of fun. So,
well, Brandy, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. And you guys take care. I'll catch you online.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye, Brandy. Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Okay.
All right. So are you guys okay to go for just like 10 more minutes?
A little bit longer? Sure.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm okay.
All right.
For a little bit longer.
So Heather, you want to, I don't know if you have any information in front of you, but do you want to kind of give us a couple Kickstarters that everyone should check out?
I know Belial 2 is out and looks really awesome. I am a backer. Chuck Bonneau and Sean Barber, I want to say if that's right. There is a link on my page, and there's links in the Chaos group. There's a bunch. A lot of them just launched. I know Tom Hutchinson has something going on with BDI. Wow. I don't have everything in front of me, but there is so many. Steph Wilson is a artist, and he has his work in multiple going on. I know Totally Rad Comics has one going on. So it really depends on what you're looking for. You know, there's a little bit of everything.
Comic lover, I highly recommend, you know, creating a Kickstarter. Even if you're not a creator yourself, just make an account and then go under the comics and then hit all comics and just see what's there. There's
It's pretty
so
amazing.
many, and it's not just comics. Kickstarter is everything. You can find documentaries and films and books and tools and whatever.
They have a face mask, like a breathable face mask you can attach to your glasses. Like somebody that has a Kickstarter for that. And I saw it on Facebook the other day, and I'm like, really? Like, come on. So then all the people are like laughing at it, saying, apparently these people don't wear glasses, da 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 da. And I was like, well, okay, that's probably not something I want to back, but you know.
It's been a good platform for them, though, I think.
Yeah, I think Kickstarter, just in general, is going to be the future of a lot of things.
I think it puts creators at the forefront to control their destiny.
No more middleman.
And I think that that's what a lot of people have been going, that have had to deal with, is the fact that they didn't have an opportunity to do what they really wanted to do. So they ended up doing something else. It wasn't really what they planned on. It wasn't something that they were really happy with at the end.
Yeah.
All right, Omar.
And, I remembered one more. Karen Nicole is launching Fire Bitch 2 if she hasn't already launched it. And that will be one you want to check out.
Okay.
All right. Whittle, if you want, go ahead. If you know any of these Kickstarters, if you want to put some of the links.
I'll drop the links as soon as...
I'll try to find them.
All right. While you're doing that, Omar, I'm going to put you on the spot, buddy.
All right. Hit me. 5
movies everyone should watch on Halloween.
Okay, so it's funny you mentioned that. This is my first episode. This is exactly what my first episode was about on the Creep Show. So, Trick or Treat from 2007. If you guys haven't seen it, it's an anthology film a la
Mike Doherty, right?
Yeah, Mike Doherty. It's in the same vein as Tales from the Crypt and Creep Show, which my podcast is named after. I believe it's 4 different stories. They all revolve around the same town on Halloween, and they overlap. So sometimes you'll see characters interacting with other characters from different stories, and it's really just well done. And I think above all else, that is my Halloween movie of choice, even more so than John Carpenter's original Halloween. Next up, I would say Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the only one to not feature Michael Myers. It revolves around a company called Silver Shamrock that makes some
annoying song,
interesting masks and annoying jingles. And I just really love this film. It bombed right when it came out, which is why they decided to get into the Michael Myers business for the rest of the franchise. Originally, they were supposed to be, every movie was supposed to be a different tale on Halloween night, and they scrapped the idea completely after Season of the Witch failed. But it has such a giant cult following, and for good reason. It's just a fun film. They don't skimp away from the gore, which is kind of cool. They don't, that's not normal for the franchise. You know, Halloween is pretty subtle when it comes to that.
And especially with involving children.
Yeah. I personally think it has more to do with the holiday. It's just a fun one to watch on the day of. We talked earlier about Monster Squad. That's my personal fave that I like to watch on Halloween day. I do it every year. It's kind of my own little tradition. What was that, 3 that I'm on right now? Yeah,
that was 3 movies.
Okay, so then last year's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, produced by Guillermo del Toro and directed by Andre Overdahl. Excellent gateway to horror, man. Like it doesn't pull any punches. It challenges everything there is to a PG-13 horror film. The scares are real. The atmosphere and the lighting, the way he shoots certain scenes. I mean, just a gorgeous, gorgeous film. And the screenplay's from Guillermo, who's my favorite director of all time.
He took right from the books, too.
Yeah. I remember the covers of those books in elementary school, and I was too afraid to open them up to read their contents. The cover was enough. Like, I was like, all right, I'm over here with R.L. Stine on the Goosebumps and the Fear Street. But for some reason, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark just seemed to be too much for me to handle right away. Like, and I never got over that.
Was it because the covers were like, they're black with white with the red? Like,
you know, it was very simple. The sketches were so memorable, right? Like just a weird, creepy clown. I'd never seen a clown look like that before. The scarecrow on there, which is he's featured in the movie.
Yeah,
well.
That was a creepy ass story.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely terrifying as a kid, and I thought I was very impressed with the film. Not to mention, it has to my memory, our first Latin male lead as a protagonist. Like, we don't get that. We are cannon fodder throughout almost all of horror history and cinema history. So, I mean, so much so that Latin actors back in the 80s would change their names to an American one for fear of not being cast. You know, it's only a year ago that we got our first male protagonist, which is incredible. Was that 4? So, yep. All right. So my 5th one, because it's the full moon on Halloween, you gotta watch the original Wolfman. It's such a gorgeous film. Like, I can't say enough good things about it. I used to recite the poem that was sung in it about the wolfbane. I have somewhere around this ridiculous makeshift studio I've built up a replica of Lon Chaney Jr.'s cane. Everything about this movie influenced our lore that we have on werewolves now. there was almost nothing. You can find some Greek myths and things here and there, but for the most part, all the tropes, the silver, all that stuff comes from this one movie.
Yeah.
You know, it influenced not only all of cinema, but mythology. That's super powerful. That's like Superman to comics. It's incredible. And I think on a night like tonight where we don't get this ever, you owe it to yourselves to watch a classic and to really look at the beauty of the film.
Right.
So
and I do have to say, I think it was you on Facebook that you kind of stood up for Twilight because of the vampires. I think it was you on Facebook, somebody on Facebook, about going out in daylight. It was before Bela Lugosi. The vampires could walk in the day. Was that you?
Yeah. So the common myth that sunlight destroys vampires was actually first introduced in Nosferatu. They needed a big finale, right? Like a big way to end it and defeat Count Olaf, and a stake through the heart just wasn't going to do it for the filmmaker. So they decided to do sunlight. And ever since then, that's been part of vampire lore. But in Bram Stoker's original Dracula, he walks out in the daylight. He's in a weakened state. He's practically mortal, which is why they try to get to him while he's sleeping, because he won't be able to have the power to fight back against four guys, especially one who's like a hunter. Like Quincy Morris was like a man's man. Like super bronze action star. He would have been played by Sean Connery back in the day. You know, rest in peace. That's, you know, he had a Bowie knife that he kept with him. He went to fancy parties with. There's no way Dracula could stop that kind of force in the middle of the day. It wasn't that they caught him while he was sleeping. It was that that's the only time they're going to be able to put up a fight, because otherwise, when the sun's down, he's at his best. So the concept of Twilight, which I mean, I gotta admit, I've never read. I saw 2 of the movies, I think, of them being able to be out in the sunlight. That's not a big deal to me. Like, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's perfectly fine. With that franchise, I've always looked at it as it's not geared for me, right? It was made for teenage girls of the time. They enjoyed it. They made a ton of money doing it. It has its fans. Who am I to say anything about it? That sounds great. Good for them.
It gave us Robert Pattinson.
It gave us Robert Pattinson, who I cannot wait to see as Batman. I am not like the haters out there. I think that movie is going to be phenomenal.
And on that note,
he is good. I have to say, he's phenomenal.
Where can people find your podcast?
So I'm currently on YouTube under the Creep Show Podcast. If you have me on Facebook, I post links directly to the page where you can go on, like, and subscribe and all that jazz. If you don't have me on Facebook, please friend request me. You can see my name right there. I'm under Omerton Rios because that's the only way I can find my playlist on Spotify. There's a lot of other Omar Rioses in the world, so I can never find my own playlist that I've made.
Will the real Omar Rios stand up?
Yeah, so I had to make mine a silly name. But please, friend request me. Go onto the YouTube page and like and subscribe. Give me feedback. Everything. I'm new to the game, but I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to putting out new content every week to every 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be seeing you on the show, I think, more often.
Thank you.
Yeah, we still need to talk about video games.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll talk after the show ends. But Heather, thank you for joining us, and I hope we didn't scare you into, not wanting to do live video.
No, I'm actually more comfortable. I'm getting better each time. It was always a fear, and I'm going out of my comfort zone, but I'm having fun doing it.
I hope that you learned a lot from our guest. This is the thing that we have. When we have guests, we we bring guests that have interesting careers and stories. So
It was definitely fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
awesome. And Willow, what do you have going on for the family tonight?
Tonight we are watching House on Haunted Hill, the original with Vincent Price.
Did you guys choose the color or black and white? Because Garrett did say that he had both.
You know what? I have the movie, and I'm pretty sure it's in black and white.
It's better that way.
I'm not gonna play it on from YouTube. I learned my lesson from last time.
And what time is the freak show tonight?
It's 7 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, 6 p.m. Central my time. So. And we froze.
Yep, we lost them.
Fantastic. Yeah, my mutant ability is kicking in again. But yeah, so I'll be dressed up as Elvira. As soon as we're done here, I'm gonna try to eat something quick and do my.
And we're back.
I'm right there with you. I'm starving.
I would love to see pictures when you're all dressed up.
All right,
I'm going to definitely take pictures
commercial before we end, and then just stay with us after we end, and we'll say our goodbyes.
All right.
You have more options than ever before when choosing a film, a television or internet series, a book to curl up with, or even a radio show or podcast. Get to know the people who are creating for you. The Hangin' With Web Show, hosted by award-winning author and journalist G.W. Pomacher, is the internet's fastest-growing web talk show series. The Hangin' With Web Show features professional, yet casual, in-depth interviews with creative arts and entertainment pros. Meet the people behind a digital revolution in creating more quality content than ever before in the history of media. Find the Hangin' With Web Show on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or simply go to www.hanginwithshow.com. That's www.hanginwithshow.com.
Well, there we have it. That was the end of episode 31.
Yay.
Nice.
And then we're off to trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat.
Yeah, whatever.
Go get a Q-tip.
I'm not drinking, I swear.
It's coffee, but maybe.
But yeah, thank you for everybody who tuned in. Thank you for the questions. And then also, I know David and Craig, their internet had a little issue, so they didn't get the chance to come back on. But we will get their links up. We have their movies on our Amazon watch list, so we'll get to those. But happy Halloween, everyone, and please be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Halloween, guys.
As we say every weekend, it's time to ring that bell. Till next weekend, this has been Real Neil.